I was so mad because our teacher was the only one who was late, and I didn't want to just sit down like Sakura told me to because I was ready to roll, believe it. The other groups had already met their new teachers and taken off on some adventure or something, and even Iruka-sensei was gone, which we all knew, okay? So I grabbed an eraser and stuck it in the sliding door, and when Sakura asked what I was doing and scolded me saying I was asking for trouble, I just laughed because I love stuff like this, and that's what he gets for coming late. Sakura tried to play innocent, and Sasuke acted all superior, saying our teacher was a Jonin, an elite ninja, and there was no way he'd fall for a cheap trick, calling me clueless. But then the door opened, and smack! The eraser bounced right off his silver hair. I cheered because I got him, and he totally fell for it, while Sakura immediately started making excuses, apologizing and lying that she told me not to do it, and Sasuke was just staring in shock, wondering if this guy actually fell for that cheap trick, and if he was really a Jonin. Our new teacher just looked at us and said his first impression of our group was that we were a bunch of idiots. After that, he took us to the roof and told us it was time for a survival test, asking us to introduce ourselves one at a time, but Sakura didn't know what to say, so he told us to list things we like, things we hate, dreams for the future, and hobbies. Sakura asked him to go first to show us how it's supposed to work, so he introduced himself as Kakashi Hatake. But then he said he didn't feel like telling us what he liked or hated, that he hadn't really thought about his dreams for the future, and that he just had lots of hobbies, which Sakura rightly pointed out was totally useless since all he told us was his name. Then it was my turn, the guy on the right, so I told him straight up, "Believe it, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I like instant ramen in a cup, and I really like the ramen Iruka-sensei got me at the Ichiraku noodle shop, but I hate the 3 minutes you have to wait after you pour the water in the ramen cup. My hobby is eating different kinds of ramen and comparing them, and my future dream is to be the greatest Hokage so the whole village will stop disrespecting me and start treating me like I'm somebody important." Kakashi mumbled something about me growing up in an interesting way and moved on to Sakura, who was completely obsessed with Sasuke, blushing and squealing about the person she likes, her hobby, and her dream, only stopping to scream my name when Kakashi asked what she hated, making Kakashi realize girls her age are more interested in boys than ninja training. The next morning, we waited for hours until Kakashi finally showed up, saying a black cat crossed his path so he had to take the long way, before pulling out an alarm clock, setting it for noon and showing us 2 bells. He told us the assignment was very simple. Just take the bells from him before noon, and if we didn't, we'd go without lunch, be tied to the posts, and watch him eat right in front of us, which made Sakura realize why he told us not to eat breakfast. I pointed out there were 3 of us, but only 2 bells, and Kakashi smirked, saying that way at least one of us would definitely end up tied to a post, disqualified, and sent back to the academy, though all 3 of us could flunk out too, telling us to come at him with the intent to kill, using any weapons including shuriken, or we wouldn't be able to take them. Sakura yelled that those weapons were too dangerous, especially since he couldn't even dodge my eraser. But Kakashi just glared at me and said, class clowns are usually the weakest links, telling them to safely ignore me because I was a lowest score loser, and that we could begin when he said start. He kept calling me a loser, so I snapped, pulling out my kunai and charging at him to destroy him, but he was so fast I didn't even see it. He instantly appeared behind me, grabbing my hand and pointing my own kunai at the back of my head, telling me not to be in such a hurry since he hadn't said start yet. He noted that I actually came at him with the full intention of destroying him, saying he was actually starting to like us, and then he finally yelled, "Get ready, and start!" I didn't know it at the time, but back at the academy, the 3rd Hokage was talking to Iruka-sensei, who was worried because he heard rumors about Kakashi's tough training methods, and the Hokage showed him a book proving that of all the trainees ever assigned to him, not a single one had ever passed his test, meaning they were all eliminated. Meanwhile, back at the training grounds, Kakashi was muttering about how a ninja must know how to conceal their movements and hide effectively, praising the others for hiding well, but I just stood right out in the open yelling, "You and me right now, fair and square, let's go!" He called me a fool and said compared to the others I was a little bit weird, but I shot back that the only thing weird here was his haircut, charging at him again. I thought we were going to do taijutsu, hand-to-hand combat, but then he reached into his pouch, making me think he was grabbing a weapon. But instead he pulled out a book, telling me to make my move, and explaining he was reading it to find out what happens in the story, mocking my weak attacks by saying it didn't really matter if he was reading or whatever. I yelled that I was going to crush him and charged in. But he kept dodging me effortlessly while reading his stupid book, before suddenly vanishing and appearing right behind me, repeating his own advice. Don't let your enemy get behind you all the time. Sakura screamed from the bushes for me to get out of there quick because he was forming the tiger hand sign, making her think he was going to demolish me with a dangerous fire jutsu, but it was too late as Kakashi yelled, "Leaf Village, secret finger jutsu, 1,000 years of death," and brutally poked me right in the butt, sending me flying high into the air and splashing into the river, making Sakura realize it wasn't a hand sign at all and call us both total idiots, while Kakashi calmly went back to reading. I popped out of the water, coughing but determined, knowing I couldn't let it end like this, and that I'd find the strength somehow to get a bell despite being so hungry I was wobbling, swearing I wouldn't go back to the academy and I will become a ninja. I launched myself out of the water, and then I unleashed my best move, a massive shadow clone jutsu, surrounding him with 7 solid, real clones, which totally shocked him since he didn't expect me to master a forbidden skill. I yelled that if he ever laid a hand on my sensei, I'd kill him, demanding he show me what he could do, but he just said it was a great technique he didn't think I could maintain for long, calling me the worst student who couldn't beat him with this jutsu. Suddenly, one of my clones grabbed him from behind, and I cheered that I got him, using his own advice about not letting enemies get behind you, explaining I had a clone sneak out of the river super quiet as a diversionary tactic, yelling that this was for nailing me in the butt earlier as I leapt in to punch him. I thought I nailed him, and the bells were mine, but I screamed in pain because suddenly Kakashi wasn't there. He had used a replacement jutsu to switch bodies with one of my clones, leaving me punching myself in the face. My clone started arguing, convinced that Kakashi had transformed into one of us using a jutsu to smell like me, and we all started beating each other up trying to figure out who was the real jerk, until Sakura yelled from the bushes that I should just undo the jutsu, calling me not cool and a loser for falling for it. I dispelled the clones, rubbing my head and realizing how smooth he was to make me look like a total moron. But then I looked down and saw a bell lying right there in the open grass. I cheered, thinking I must have gotten him with my attack, and he dropped a bell, running forward to grab it. But the moment I touched it, a rope snapped around my ankle and yanked me up into the air, leaving me dangling upside down from a tree. Kakashi walked out, casually picking up the bell and telling me, of course it was a trap, lecturing me that a ninja doesn't let down his guard even when fighting a fool like me, telling me to think before I use a jutsu or my opponent might use it against me, and adding that if the bait is obvious, don't take it because a ninja must see through deception. I yelled that I got it, but he coldly replied he was telling me this because I didn't get it, and that thinking I get it wasn't the same as actually getting it, but just as he said that, he finally dropped his guard, and suddenly a barrage of shuriken and kunai came flying out of the trees, blasting Kakashi right in the chest and making his body fall backward as I screamed in panic. "Are you out of your mind, Sasuke? You went too far!"